Hello, welcome to our channel, Top 10s You Should Know. Let's be honest, we all know someone who has a head full of brilliant ideas. They can analyze, plan, and talk for hours about what they're going to do. But months later, nothing's changed. And then there are those people who might not talk much about their plans. They just do it. They move, they adapt, they finish. The difference isn't luck. It's about traits that push action over endless thinking. Today, we're diving deep into the top 15 traits that separate thinkers from doers, so you can see where you stand and maybe make that shift from intention to impact. 1. Urgency over perfection. Thinkers often get caught in the trap of wanting every condition to be perfect before they start. The perfect timing, perfect resources, perfect skill level. But doers know that perfect conditions almost never exist. They feel an inner urgency, a drive to begin, even when things aren't ready. This urgency doesn't mean rushing blindly. It means valuing momentum over flawless preparation. They trust that progress creates clarity, and clarity creates improvement. This is why doers often outpace thinkers. They're learning in real time while others are still planning. That energy of "I need to start now" is what separates those who get results from those who just collect ideas. 2. Comfort with imperfection. While thinkers often see mistakes as signs of failure, doers embrace them as part of the journey. They know that errors are the tuition you pay for success. The first draft won't be perfect. The first attempt might even fail. But without that initial step, nothing evolves. Doers understand that feedback and mistakes are simply data, not personal defeats. This mindset frees them to act faster and more often because they're not paralyzed by the fear of being wrong. In a way, they make peace with looking messy at first because they're aiming for mastery in the long run. 3. Execution as a habit. For doers, action isn't a rare burst of motivation. It's a daily rhythm. They don't wait for inspiration to strike. They've built execution into their lifestyle. This means showing up every day, even when they don't feel like it, even when the progress is slow. Thinkers often rely on big waves of motivation, but when the energy fades, so does the progress. Doers, however, rely on discipline more than mood. That's why their small daily actions compound into big results over time. 4. Quick decision making. Doers understand that indecision is a silent thief of time. While thinkers might analyze a decision for days, doers gather the necessary info, trust their instincts, and move. This doesn't mean being reckless. It means avoiding the paralysis that comes from overthinking. They'd rather make a choice, test it, and adjust than stay stuck at the crossroads. This habit lets them cover more ground and gain more real-world feedback. 5. Bias toward action. The biggest difference between thinkers and doers? Doers default to action. When presented with a new idea, they immediately look for the first step they can take right now. Thinkers, on the other hand, might spend days debating the pros and cons without moving forward. A bias toward action doesn't mean skipping planning. It means refusing to let planning replace doing. 6. Resilience after setbacks. Doers get knocked down just as often as thinkers, maybe even more, because they take more risks. The difference is they get back up faster. They don't take failure as a sign to stop. They take it as a sign to adjust. This resilience comes from focusing on the bigger picture and knowing that one bad day doesn't erase all progress. 7. Prioritizing learning by doing. Thinkers often believe they need more research before acting. Doers believe the real learning begins after you start. They value firsthand experience over endless theory. This means they acquire skills faster because they're applying knowledge in real situations instead of storing it for someday. 8. Willingness to be seen. Starting small doers aren't embarrassed to start small, even if it means they look inexperienced. They know growth happens in public, and they don't wait until they're good enough to be visible. This is why they gain traction while thinkers are still perfecting behind the scenes. 9. Clear prioritization. Doers know they can't do everything at once, so they choose what matters most and act on it. Thinkers sometimes get lost juggling multiple ideas without finishing any. Doers understand the power of focus, that saying yes to one thing often means saying no to 10 others. 10. Action-oriented confidence. Doers gain confidence not from thinking they can do something, but from proving it to themselves through action. This self-belief grows each time they follow through on a task. Thinkers often wait for confidence to appear before acting, but doers know action builds confidence, not the other way around. 11. Time management discipline. Doers treat time as a non renewable resource. They plan their day with room for execution, not just planning. Thinkers often underestimate how much time an idea needs to come alive. Doers budget time for both thinking and doing. 12. Accountability to themselves. Doers don't just rely on external deadlines, they set personal ones and hold themselves to them. They don't wait for a boss or client to push them, they take full responsibility for follow through. 13. Momentum protection. Once a doer gets moving, they treat momentum like gold because they know how fragile it can be. They've learned from experience that starting something takes a lot of energy, but once you're in motion, it's easier to keep going than to stop and start again. That's why they guard it so fiercely. They say no to unnecessary meetings, ignore the urgent but unimportant distractions, and protect their focus from the constant pings and notifications trying to steal their attention. Momentum to them is not just about speed, it's about rhythm, flow, and sustained progress. A thinker, on the other hand, might get excited about an idea, start with a burst of energy, and then stall when something shinier catches their eye. 14. Willingness to make public commitments. Doers understand a little psychological trick. When you tell people you're going to do something, you create accountability. That social pressure can be uncomfortable, but it can also be the push you need when motivation starts to fade. A doer will announce, "I'm running a marathon in 6 months," or "I'm launching my business by the end of the year," not because they're showing off, but because they're locking themselves into action. They know that if others are watching, quitting becomes much harder. Thinkers, in contrast, often keep their dreams and goals a secret until they feel completely ready. 15. Obsession with finishing. Here's the ultimate difference between thinkers and doers. Doers finish. It doesn't matter if the work gets hard, if the excitement wears off, or if the results aren't as glamorous as they hoped, they push through until it's done. This isn't because they never doubt themselves. They do. It's because they understand that nothing meaningful happens without completion. Half-finished projects don't change your life. They don't build credibility, and they don't open doors. Doers would rather deliver something imperfect but complete than abandon something brilliant halfway. They see every finished task as a brick in the foundation of their success, and they know the discipline of finishing compounds over time. Thinkers, meanwhile, often chase the high of starting something new. That fresh burst of inspiration feels exciting, but the middle part, where the work gets hard, is where they lose steam. So, are you more of a thinker or a doer right now? The good news is, these traits aren't fixed. You can train yourself to act faster, finish more, and close the gap between intention and reality. Because at the end of the day, ideas are only as powerful as the actions that bring them to life. What about you? Which of these traits do you already have, and which do you want to build? Let's talk in the comments. Your next big step might just start there.